Is anyone really surprised about what's going on in the US right now? Like, really? Now, don't worry, I'm going to play the video shortly, but I guess for those who don't know, from Friday the 6th of June, there have been some protests in LA because of the immigration arrests that have been happening in LA in regards to the immigrants who that are here illegally, essentially. Now, this video is not going to be me bashing on, the topic itself, like there being illegal immigrants, because, look, to some extent, I guess they have to do what they have to do, but this is not that video for this. This is essentially me attacking the abuse of government power and trying to help you guys understand that this isn't us versus them sort of thing. It's not, they want you to think it's, oh, get immigrants out. Once we get immigrants out, things will be better. Look, let me explain something to you. Yeah, even from the UK, the same tactic is happening. This is all a smokescreen. This is simply an abuse of power, and the sooner we can all recognize what's actually going on here, the sooner we'll be able to actually collectively fight back against this sort of stuff. Now, anyway, let me play the vid quick.
On through the heart of LA.
You just shut the fuck up!
Honestly, I don't even know where to start with this. I think first thing we need to kind of discuss is the role of journalists. Like, so for those that don't know, journalists aren't, they're not just bystanders. They are literally the eyes and ears of the public. Well, they're meant to be. So I guess the argument is a journalist is meant to obviously be documenting the truth, holding power to account and helping, members of the public understand what's happening on the ground, especially in moments of unrest. Now, obviously, look, you can make the argument that specific news sites are going to record specific things and share different parts of what's actually going on. Now, I don't want to get into semantics and all that stuff, but the point I'm basically trying to make is the role of a journalist is to give the public an understanding of what's actually going on the ground, like actually what's happening in front of all of us. Now, the problem is that if you go and start attacking journalists, that you have to understand that this is the government and this is, the local authority essentially telling us they don't want that happening. And I don't think you guys are quite grasping the seriousness of this sort of situation. And to be honest, this isn't the first time it's happened. This has been going on for a long while. You need to understand that in a functioning democracy, press freedom is non-negotiable. Like literally, without it, transparency completely collapses and abuse of power tends to go unchecked. This is literally what we're seeing in front of us, and this is what has happened. Now, albeit it's on a very small scale. Look, it's rubber bullets. I'm not saying she's left dying and all the journalists were chased out of the area, but it sets a kind of precedent. Like, you need to understand that journalists need to be able to feel free to get to a site and obviously report about what's going on. But if there are, reports going around that these journalists are essentially being attacked, then what does that, say to those companies that want to be able to go and journal what's happening? They have to be a bit more worried. They can't go on the front line. And look, not trying to get into the Israel-Palestine stuff, but all I will say is this. If we didn't have journalists on the ground, we would be struggling to understand what's happening. So whereas people believe a genocide is happening or not, the point I'm trying to make is that it's journalists where we are meant to be able to get the clearest bit of information, because as we all know, big media can be very, very biased. I guess the clear point I'm trying to make here is if a journalist is harmed intentionally, that is arguably one of the biggest red flags I've seen in a long while. It's literally like we're in Afghanistan and stuff like that. I know, again, it may sound like I'm stretching it a little bit, but you need to understand we all start from somewhere, and it doesn't usually go 0 to 100. It creeps up on you. And this is just the clearest example of it creeping up on us. So I actually took up the time to go and have a look about like what would ever allow this to be okay? Like, what would the situation have to be for this to be okay? And essentially what I saw here, I'm basically just reading it here. It says force must be necessary to control the situation. It must be proportionate to the threat, and it must not be used to intimidate or silence peaceful actors. I mean, look, Look at, she's there talking on a microphone. They know she's talking on a microphone. She's close to them. This isn't something where it's like it's a few miles off and they done it by accident. You can go and watch the video again or go on Twitter. You can clearly see the officer takes aim and shoots, and you can see all the cameramen around this woman. Like it just literally doesn't make any sense. The circumstances around when something like this would ever be okay, or I guess excused, is actually very clear. It says the only way this could happen is if the reporter is in a restricted area or has been refusing to leave after a dispersal order. Look, I don't know if that's happened. I can't comment on that. It then says if the situation is chaotic and they mistake the reporter for a protester. I personally just do not think that was the case. And the next one is force is being used indiscriminately and the reporter gets caught in it. And again, that's not the case, because this reporter and cameraman are clearly so separate from everyone else. But anyway, the point of this is basically, this is where we've got to. And you know what? It's literally, there's not really much more to say. I'm not even going to try and drag this video on for much longer. At the end of the day, this is the small steps to a dictatorship. And there's an argument that we're already kind of there. Look at what, Trump is doing. Most of the bills he's putting through, it doesn't matter who, comes up against them. It ends up happening. It's crazy world we live in. I just wanted to quickly comment on this. And you know what? I guess my reason of, why this is important is because, today it's a rubber bullet, and then tomorrow it's an arrest without probable cause. And then the next time a protest happens, they just say, no media is allowed. It's a complete media blackout. And this is when we start treading to some murky waters. But yeah, man, it's a bit frustrating. I think as a UK resident, it's annoying because we've had our own situations of this. And for some reason, look, we just follow America and everything they do. So when the US starts to go to shit, honestly, the UK follows straight after. And honestly, it's worrying. But anyway, I'm going to be releasing my immigration part 2 video. I think I have a lot more statistics and stuff to share. But anyway, guys, I'll catch you guys in the next one.